Picking up from the last video, we're going to look at how to add some more LEDs to our circuit physically before we start branching into breadboards and coding. So what we're going to do is minimize our code window. We're going to come over here to the right where it says Components Basic and make sure it's on the Basic menu. You may still have the Arduino selected, which is a bunch of simulated sketches and boards. So if that is still there, just go ahead and click on Starters Arduino and switch it over to Basic. Now there are two options here. We can either take an LED and drag it out of the toolbox, or we can click on an LED and using our keyboard use Control-C, Control-V, or Control-C, Control-V, sorry. And you can use either options here. I am going to just grab the resistors out of the toolbox. It's a little bit faster than Control-C, Control-V, and LED is right here. Okay, so we have these floating LEDs hooked up to a resistor, and you'll notice that I can sort of move the LED back and forth and it auto connects which leg it's on. So I'm going to take that off for a second, and if we examine the LEDs we can see that the straight one is called a cathode and the bent one is called an anode. That's very important because when you build this in real life, if you place the LED in the wrong orientation, it will not work. The electricity has to flow in a single direction, or in a known direction. The LEDs we have in our classroom, instead of having a bent leg like that, one of the legs will be longer. Okay, so we're going to connect our resistors to the long leg. You can see here that the resistor goes into a wire and then up to the LED. So we could do that if we wanted to, but I'm just going to connect it directly to the LED. It's just a little bit faster. We're then going to connect pins 12 and pins 11 to resistors. And then we're going to take the cathodes from the LED and connect those back to ground. And the ground can be a little tricky sometimes because there's already something there. So you want to make sure that it's red when you hover and click, and you want to do that for both LEDs. Now if I look at this circuit, I can see a lot of green lines and it may start to get confusing. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the wire and we're going to change the color. The color's off screen right now, but on the top left of your screen you should see some color boxes. And I'm going to change that wire color to, let's go with orange. Oh, sorry, no, this is our ground. That should be black. I'm going to change this one to black as well. And then maybe these ones we could change to, let's change those to different colors maybe. There's red. So we have green, red, and let's go with turquoise, just to see the different chords coming out. Okay. So if I go into my code and I try to start this simulation, we'll see that only pin 13 lights up. So that means we have to modify our code to get these other light bulbs working as well. So I'll go ahead and hit stop simulation. And one of the first things we're going to do is copy the code on line 3, our pin mode, and declare the pin mode for pins 12 and 11 as well. So I'm just going to copy and paste this in, use my keyboard to align things properly. And then for pin mode, I'm going to change the variable. I'm going to change it to 12 and 11. So now I've told the Arduino to output signals on pins 13, 12, and 11. Okay, so again, just use copy and paste to do that and make sure we're using the same numbers here for green, red, and blue. Okay, so the 13, 12, and 11. If I go ahead and hit start simulation, we'll see that the light bulbs are still not lighting up. It's just the first light bulb. So it's not enough to just declare the pins to be output, you have to then tell the pins what to do. So I'm going to hit stop simulation, and we can see that we have our pins outputting correctly on lines 3, 4, and 5, but we're only ever using pin 13. So what we can do here is copy all 4 statements in the code block, and then hit enter on our keyboard and paste these into the loop. So I'm going to backspace and line everything up just to keep things clean. And then we're going to come through here and analyze the structure. In the last video we talked about this turning pin 13 on, waiting, pin 13 off, waiting. So if I want pin 12 to come on next, I might change the 13 to 12. And then if I want pin 11 to follow up, I change the 13 to 11. So in order now, what's going to happen is when we enter the program loop, you'll turn pin 13 off, wait, 13 off, wait. Then pin 12 on, wait, pin 12 off, wait, and then finally pin 11 on, wait, pin 11 off, wait. We've now reached the end of our loop. I'll come back up to the top and cycle through again. So let's see if that actually works. And that's one of the nice things about the circuit simulators. You can quickly modify your circuit and your code and see immediately if you have things correct or incorrect. And as you can see here, the lights are functioning in sequence from left to right. There's 13, there's 12, and finally there's 11. And now we've reached the end of our loop, so we cycle back. So that's great. We have now modified our circuit with 3 LEDs and modified our code to turn those LEDs on and off. We're now going to introduce the concept of the breadboard in the next video to allow for even easier prototyping in real life.